with Nigeria's Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, known as the Fccpc, which is now hunting down fraudulent and illegal online money lending organizations. It's a new onslaught against some of the abuses that are rearing their ugly heads as the adoption of fintech and digital technology are becoming widespread in the financial markets. Babatunde Irukera is the head of the Fccpc, and he joins me on the show tonight with the latest from Washington. A good evening to you, sir, and great to have you on the show tonight. Thanks for making the time. Thank you so much.
Good evening. How are you?
Thank you so much. We appreciate making the time. It's for you. A good day to you there in Washington. Give me a little bit more details of the criminal prosecution that your agency is now pursuing against some online money lenders. What's the situation report?
Well, so what it is that we opened an investigation. We've gathered quite some information from the dawn raids that occurred and our other intelligence sources. In addition, that some of the businesses have come in. Some of their operatives have provided valuable information, and we've seen that some things have gone wrong. For instance, we have charges that include obstruction of justice. We have charges that include criminal defamation and misleading the regulator, which is inconsistent with the FCCPA. Some of those charges are being filed as we speak, and we anticipate that there will be additional charges and additional defendants.
What are the facts of what is going on in that fintech segment? How deep are the problems or issues within that space that your investigations have so far revealed?
Significant. I think we thought there was a problem in there, and we went there. But what we imagined is actually completely superficial compared to what we have discovered. It's quite very deep industry, and it's actually also used for multiple things. Sources of funding, some of it are very amorphous, and some of the funds that become working capital are questionable from a source standpoint and even from an objective standpoint. There are many things we're discovering, and then some of the operators themselves are faceless, and some of them are foreign nationals with a lack of clarity with respect to their working relationships in Nigeria. We're finding out also that what seem like standalone companies are sometimes actually appendages of foreign companies that do business in other places. Even much more alarming is that we're finding out that some of their operational systems, including the softwares, have certain properties or features that are inconsistent with acceptable technologies anywhere else in the world. Technology that allows you to track defaulters or borrowers or people's telephone, and also allows you to get certain information about people that should otherwise not be available from open sources. And so we're discovering quite a number of things and realizing that it turns out that what has really made this prevalent and scale up so quickly is to some extent a very well-crafted strategy that is in violation of most pieces of law. And sadly, one of the other things we're finding out is that some of the messages that people are receiving and some of the enterprises that are going on out there are actually going out in the name of illegal operations, meaning that the illegal operations are one thing, but there are other people who are now perpetrating fraud. For instance, we have some of the operations that have made commitments to the commission and have stopped sending messages, yet people are still receiving messages in the names of those organizations. So you've got several layers of inappropriate conduct. The organized one we're able to address, but we're cranking, scratching our heads at this point on how we would ultimately get to the second layer, which are potentially some of the agents or non-agents who are piggybacking on the names and entities to clone the apps or clone the systems and sending money to their own accounts.
It looks like a very big issues you're talking about here, sir. But what other agencies are you working with on this, and how prepared are you to secure remedies in law for those who have been defrauded, those whose private information have been allegedly used illegally by these online money lenders who are operating in Nigeria or who are operating from outside into Nigeria, and those who are operating within Nigeria itself?
Good. So what it is that the Fccpc is actually just host to a joint task force that was created as a joint regulatory and enforcement task force that includes the EFCC, the ICPC, the Central Bank, NITA, and National Human Rights Commission. And so between us all, and now we're working with the Nigerian Police Force, it looks like we might ultimately need some of the security agencies, potentially the DSS, and from some of the things we're discovering, who knows, we might need to speak with the NSA. And so it is a broad thing. It shows that this is quite a national issue and is very broad-based. I'd say that so far, the Joint Task Force has been robust, and it's the work of the Joint Task Force together that has brought us thus far. And quite possibly, if we need to expand this, we will. Recently, we contemplated engaging even foreign similar regulators as the Consumer Protection and Competition Authorities to compel Google and Apple to proceed in an expeditious manner with delisting and drawing down the certain apps because we were not getting traction with it. But I'll say that we're beginning to get the traction now. We're working also with the banks to make sure that they're also acting very swiftly and freezing accounts as they emerge. But beyond just freezing accounts, it's important to even get some visibility behind that and see the know your customer details upon which these accounts were open. We're finding out that because of the possibility of electronically controlling bank accounts, some of those bank accounts are not even operated from within Nigeria. Some people are on ground here. The tokens for operating the bank accounts, in at least one case, actually are in China. And so it's quite complex, it's quite well drawn out, and it's not inconceivable that we're going to need help beyond what we have domestically.
Is the Fccpc looking to extend your mandate of consumer protection into the securities trading market? Because right now you are right at the getting at the middle of Broad Street in terms of online money lending activities relating to finance and financial markets.
Our preference is not to go beyond our scope. We understand our mandate very clearly. I think that there are certain overlaps in different places where, quite frankly, even though we have a mandate, but as far as the core competence belongs elsewhere. And so it's collaborating with those folks that we intend to do. If I understand the point you're making, that's primarily a securities and exchange issue. We have an underlying and existing memorandum of understanding with the Securities and Exchange Commission. We're going to let them take the lead. But when it comes to things like advocacy and receiving complaints and jointly managing those things, we do agree that we have the channels and we have the platforms which will contribute to any regulatory framework to address the problems. But because our mandate extends beyond, across the board, across industries, I think it's very important that we continue to recognize what our own limitations are from a technical knowledge and even a capacity standpoint, so that for the most part, what we're doing is working with the core or primary regulators.
How quickly are you to bring some of the folks who are perpetrating some of these issues to justice? How quickly would you like to see a closure, at least on one or two of these issues, to make some mark on the ground?
I think we're already arriving at some level of closure, as it were. For one thing, the judicial process takes quite some time. And so what we are looking at is really what's the objective here. To the extent that we're not looking at egregious criminal conduct, our objective would be to the extent that defendants or prospective defendants are willing to modify their behavior, provide the information we need, and provide assurances that the businesses will be run in an ethical manner. Our real interest is not to jail people who are doing business in the space of commerce. Commerce is one of the most recognized exceptions to criminal conduct, but it's also one of the recognized platforms for criminal conduct. And so we're finding the balance between regulating commerce, a judicial process, and achieving results without being stuck in a long-term judicial process. And you'd see that in what really has been a recent announcement that some of the money lenders who have been affected by the investigation have already come in and they've agreed to enter into our cooperation and assistance framework. Certain elements before you are admitted into that. And one of the elements is that you must desist from continuing criminal conduct, or at least the subject of investigation. And we're working around that. And in addition, we're making them create some of the things that we want to see, which is more open channels and stop being faceless, and create a platform for reconciliation of disputed outstanding elements of loans.
Great. We really appreciate your time on the show tonight. Babatunde Irukera, Executive Vice Chairman and CEO at the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, or the FCCPC.